In February of 2021, the Wall Street Journal came out with an article labeling Coeur d'Alene, Idaho as the hottest housing market in the nation. Fast forward a year and things are a little bit different. Stay tuned because we're going to let you know how things have changed. Welcome back. We appreciate you joining us today. My name's Lindsay.
I'm Sammy Randazzo.
And we are your favorite North Idaho real estate agents. We appreciate you joining us here every week as we put out new content on North Idaho. So if you want to stay on top of things, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you can see us every week talking about something new about North Idaho. You can also call, email, or text us at the information below. We'll be happy to help you on your real estate journey, whether it's buying, selling, investing in property here in North Idaho. So, like we said in the intro, Coeur d'Alene a year ago was topping all the lists. It was getting all the admiration for being the hottest housing market in the nation. Well, fast forward a year and some things have changed. I think we've broken it down in previous videos about how hot our market is and how much we've appreciated, how many eyes are on our market, how many people are moving here. But as all good things do come to an end type of thing, we are seeing some of the maybe consequences of living in a white hot market. So at the end of last week, the beginning of this week, the top news story kind of here locally in our community, it was front page news, was that we have now, and a couple of other cities around Idaho, have now been designated the most unaffordable markets in the nation. And that's not necessarily a great list to be on. You go from kind of being the darling to the black sheep, maybe, of the family, and Boise, Idaho Falls, and Coeur d'Alene hit in the top 10 of the most overvalued housing markets in the nation. So how they calculate the most unaffordable or overvalued markets in the nation is essentially an algorithm that tells them what the cost of living is compared to the cost of housing. So what are wages, what are income opportunities and cost of living for groceries, gas, things like that, compared to the cost of housing. And typically we try and keep people somewhere in that 25 to 30% of their total income going towards housing. And when you get above that, the markets become incredibly unaffordable. And the other thing about this algorithm is the premium that people are paying for properties then over and above what it should be. So Idaho, in general, on a larger scale, is sitting somewhere in the 30 to 50% premium that you're going to pay for property here in our communities than it should be. So based on what people are making, they have to pay a premium for housing, whether it be renting or owning a house, purchasing property. So we top this list, and we are actually kind of seeing a couple of things that are starting to happen in our market where we're seeing it softening. So I kind of liken this to, a rocket going into space and there being some sort of invisible ceiling. We've hit that ceiling and now we're kind of bumping up against that ceiling trying to get through it. However, that ceiling exists because that's the affordability, and we can't go past that without some really terrible things happening in our communities. And we're seeing stuff right now. We hear stories of like Jackson Hole or Sun Valley, Vail. You know about Vail. Yeah. Sammy lived and worked in Vail for a long time. Yeah. And you've got people in these communities, hospitality, restaurant workers.
I think a lot of the factors that make living here really desirable, there's kind of like a sweet spot where you need, your industry to be able to provide these services. And there comes a point where, the people that are providing the services, that are working in your hospitality, working in food service, et cetera, are no longer able to afford to live here. And so then you get this kind of weird sweet spot, I guess, where everyone is thriving and it's busy because people are coming and visiting. And so, your hospitality workers are making money and they're also able to enjoy. But then we're kind of, you see that shift where it's like, oh, well, now you're more so on the consumer side, and the people that are providing these services are no longer really able to afford to stay here.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that they all have to move away.
Yeah.
And then these consumers up here are like, wait, now the reason why I want to be here is kind of going away because you don't have support in those industries.
Yes.
And so, I kind of saw that happen firsthand in Vail. I lived there for 5 winters, and it was amazing and I enjoyed it, but I was on the industry side, right? And then I have some friends now that are having to kind of move away, and it's really sad, and I don't want to see that happen here.
Yes.
Because we're close, and in my opinion, I think it's close within the near future.
We're towing the line.
We're towing the line. We're kind of getting into that gray area that we don't want to be in, to the point where either we're going to need to see some industry shift or some support in those fields, or they go away, and then people don't want to live here anymore because, what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and Sammy told me a story too. At one point in time, maybe 5 years ago, you could come here and work in hospitality or work in some sort of seasonal or resort entity, and you might be able to rent a place just by yourself. Yeah. Well, now it's at the point where you've got to have 5 people renting that place because the rents have gone up so much, but the wages are still staying where they were 5+ years ago.
Absolutely.
And so with the rents going up and property values going up, appreciating as much as they are, we're seeing a huge contingency of people that obviously aren't able to comfortably afford living in North Idaho.
Yeah.
And we talked about this in a previous video, but there was a study done by the University of Idaho that came out at the beginning of the year that said in just 5 short years, it went from 75% of Kootenai County residents feeling that they could afford to live here to now only 25% of residents being able to afford a median priced house.
Which is a huge jump.
Big shift.
It's a huge shift.
It's like turning everything on top of its head. And so obviously that's unsustainable. And we're hearing stories in communities like Vail, Jackson Hole, and even in Sun Valley where some of these workers are living in tent cities. Some of these people that are, not the retirement age or the traveling, part of the community that live here and they provide those services. They're waiting on tables. They're, cleaning out the rooms at the restaurant, at the hotels. They are even teachers, plumbers, HVAC. There are a lot of people in this community that can't afford to live here, and they're really worried.
Yeah.
And so
they're staples of your community. It's like these are
they're the
necessary,
backbone.
Absolutely. And it's just, I think it's these jobs that people don't think about, right? Mm-hmm. But it makes all the difference. Like you can't have. What are you going to do when you move here with your family and then there's no teachers for your kids?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But those teachers on a teacher salary can't afford to live in the community anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's only so far you can go outskirt wise, right? Like in our neighboring little towns. But then again, those towns have their own communities as well. They have their own school districts. They have their own hospitality. Yeah. So it's just a weird. We're at a weird spot and it's making me very nervous.
Yeah, it definitely does. So we have officially been labeled one of the most overvalued markets in the nation. And the thing that kind of sucks about that is, in all honesty, I don't see this correcting itself anytime soon. We still have so many people who are looking to move here and vacation here and utilize the resources here. And so that demand is not going away.
Right.
We can't just turn the spigot off or close the doors.
Right.
So all this demand is going to continue to come and require, require people that have to work these jobs. And I know, for example, in the beginning of COVID, all these jobs were labeled like essential services, the grocery store, the teachers, gas stations, the hospitals, and not everyone at these places is making a wage that is kept up with inflation, and we're also seeing a massive increase in inflation, and that's affecting things. If you live in Rathdrum and you have to commute to Coeur d'Alene, but gas prices are $5 a gallon, and you're making $7.25, which is the minimum wage in Idaho, which in my opinion is insanely undervaluing our labor.
Absolutely.
Then it can be difficult to figure out, how do I sustain myself in this community? I'm going to actually have to go somewhere else where the cost of living is cheaper.
Right.
But also maybe there's not the opportunity or the quality of life there too.
Yeah.
So we do see some people moving out of the area because it's become so unaffordable, and that's unfortunate. We live in this amazing, beautiful community, and unfortunately we're seeing a lot of people struggle right now. So as beautiful as it is, as amazing as our community is, we are seeing this struggle. And Idaho as a whole, because of its beauty, because of remote work, because of the pandemic, and maybe political beliefs or personal beliefs, it's drawn so many people here. It's causing some problems, and that's why we've become unaffordable. So again, I don't think we're going to see an end to this anytime soon. We are really working hard to try and figure out, how do we prevent our community from becoming one of these resort towns where they're having a sector of their population, living essentially kind of transient because they can't afford to live and work in these communities. So once again, we top a list, but not for a good reason this time, and also something that's really caused a lot of eye-opening in our community. One thing I can say is I know that there's a lot of stuff going on with city council, with businesses around town, with other entities and organizations, where they're really trying to figure out, how do we address this housing affordability crisis that we are in. And I love and appreciate that about our community. As the Association of Realtors, we are involved with a group called the Regional Housing Growth Issues Partnership. You can Google that and find out more. And it's essentially a task force of 40 plus entities around our community that are trying to figure out, how do we address this crisis. So we are trying to work at it. It's going to be a slow moving process, because it's kind of like turning the Titanic. It's a big issue. It's a pertinent issue. And so hopefully here in the next couple of years, we'll see some reprieve on that. But again, I think it's going to be a long-standing issue here, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, before it gets better.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for joining in with us today. I know this is kind of a sad, sobering topic, but I wanted to kind of educate people about what's going on and just be transparent. I know Idaho's beautiful, and I know that we love where we live, and we do a lot of videos about how great it is here. But this is, the sobering truth. This is, just being transparent. We do have our issues here as well, and unfortunately, we're topping a list for a not so great reason. We're usually used to topping a list for really amazing reasons. So if you have any questions or comments, please make sure to put those down in the comment section. We'll be happy to entertain those comments and questions. You can also text, email, call us. We're happy to answer those questions. We talk to people every day in and around our community, and also outside of our community, about these things. And so we're happy to take your calls, text, questions about these things. Again, also like, subscribe, turn on notifications to stay up to date with stuff. And next time we'll be back with some more happy news. Okay, thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.